They're blaming video games again. Are you surprised? I don't know about you guys, but I'm not surprised at all. It's been in the media recently. Everyone's heard about the tragedy in Texas where 22 people died at a elementary school. Another horrible tragedy. But unfortunately, it will not be the last one you or me see in our lifetimes. As much as that's a terrible thing to say, that's just how it's going to be for the time being. Especially when the people in positions of power, like politicians, and people at the top of law enforcement, are blaming video games for terrible violent acts instead of, I don't know, mental health. I'm taking a look at my analytics, and only like 2% of the people watching this video right now are actually subscribed to the channel. Consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind later. How about the fact that the guy who had previous mental health red flags was able to buy two, rifles on his 18th birthday? How does anyone think that's less of the problem than video games are? So there was a clip posted of the top law enforcement deputy or officer, I don't exactly know, where they were taking interview questions outside the school in Texas, and they mentioned how they were looking into why this might have happened, a motive, and the officer in charge said they might be looking into cyber gaming and group gaming. Yeah, take that in for a moment. They really think that's something to look into. Just absolutely ridiculous. It's a non-solution. And that's another thing. Group gaming, cyber gaming, whatever. People have their problems with it, desensitization, all that kind of thing. But group gaming, do you really think these crazy people are playing video games with groups of people? They're not social. They have the problems. They can't be social like normal people, which is just silly. And then there was also a recent NRA convention where Ted Cruz was talking. And I don't mind Ted Cruz. You know what? I have my likes and dislikes about the guy, but he also blamed video games. It's just like, oh my gosh. This should be something so in the past. A lot of the people probably watching this video right now aren't old enough to remember, but I'm not even old enough to remember because I wasn't alive during the time, but apparently in the 80s and 90s, they said the exact same thing about metal music. So if you listen to metal music, they thought you were a Satanist and you were gonna do violent, crazy things, and it's such a silly blame game. And the more these politicians and media heads do blame games instead of actually looking for real solutions, nothing will change. And that's the sad fact of the matter. All the things that actually matter, why did this, shooter guy have access to weapons when he had previously made threats that he was going to hurt a lot of people with said weapons? Why was he allowed to have weapons? Well, that's too hard for politicians to talk about. Why was there no security? Why was the door unlocked at the school? There's all these things that could, be pointed to blame and could be lessons for future events. Why are outside of schools open? Why are their doors open and unlocked just for anyone to come in, especially when there's no security guard? Come on now. That's an easy solution. That's something we should be talking about, but no. It's one of the biggest reasons people are saying is because violent video games. Now, I don't know about you guys. I have a quote-unquote, what people would say is a quote-unquote violent video game playing in the background, Call of Duty Warzone. And I have to admit, yes, these games are getting more and more realistic. And so I 100% think things like violent media, yes, violent video games, yes, violent movies and TV shows definitely desensitize you. But I don't think it's correlation, not causation. I don't think desensitization to violent media makes you crazy. You know what I mean? I play, quote-unquote, what they'd say is violent video games all the time, and I don't feel like doing a crazy act. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm playing GTA, I don't have a want to go jack someone's car or, go rob a bank. I'm not feeling it. And I think that's the way for most people. That's where the fantasy ends, is at, the front and back door of these video games. You know, you go in and you do crazy crap in this, virtual environment, and that's how it stays. And I think I'm going to talk about a recent poll, which I found very interesting, that I got off Some Ordinary Gamer's YouTube channel, which basically, I mean, we already know that, some of the most well-known psychological universities and studies have said that video games and violence have pretty much no correlation, but here's another big one. It's 100% culture and how America is doing it. So here is video game revenue per person. It's an estimate for the year of 2019. The three top biggest revenue per person countries were Japan, South Korea, and the USA. And and beside it, there's violent gun deaths per 100,000. And per Japan and South Korea, it's damn near under, I don't know, I can't exactly read it, but it looks like 1. You know what I mean? 1 to 2 per 100,000 people. And South Korea and Japan have died through gun violence, even though they spend more on video games per person than the USA. And so if that doesn't tell you what's going on, I mean, it's another one. There's almost no video game revenue per person in places like Italy, and they have one of the more significant ones. It's almost like 1 per 100,000 people. And so that's a pretty good case study. I think it's ridiculous that we're still talking about this kind of crap. We're blaming silly things like video games instead of real solutions. And that's what politicians do, because it's easy for them. They don't want to anger the wrong people, but it's okay to anger the video game crowd for some reason, because it's a lot easier to anger the video game crowd, even if there's no scientific backing to whatever they're saying, than to anger, the gun people. And I'm not against, like the gun ownership or whatever. I think you can have, 50-50 opinion on that. You can believe whatever you want, but I can't be the only one that thinks that this guy that committed this heinous crime, which when he was younger had to do a psychological evaluation because he said he was going to hurt a lot of people at his school. I can't be the only one that thinks, maybe he should be on a red flag list or something. Why is he allowed to get a gun at such a young age? I mean, it's completely ridiculous that he was allowed to do this, especially these politicians already talk about things like red flag laws. How come that wasn't a red flag? Why was there no record, on the background registry where he was allowed to purchase rifles after saying he was going to hurt a lot of people with said rifles as soon as he could? I mean, I can't be the only one that thinks that's ridiculous, and I'm sure you guys, at least some of you, feel the same. I think it's just another one of these bare-bone excuses that we're unfortunately going to see with major politicians for probably the rest of our lives. I really hate to think that this problem will last the rest of our lives, but I find it very hard to see it has to be more than one politician that comes out and, puts into place real legislation. And I mean, a lot of people are talking about a gun ban, but honestly, I think that's very impractical for the USA. I think a lot of people would get hurt, unfortunately, because a lot of people in America are so, prepared to defend their right to defend themselves, And there's I don't know the exact amount, but I've heard that anywhere between 300 and 400 million registered firearms in America. And those, as far as I know, are only registered ones. So imagine, the illegal weapons and firearms that are there. It's probably like 450 million firearms in the United States. And so let's say we do, get rid or ban these guns. It's going to take like years to do this, and there's still going to be violence in between. And I don't see that as a solution. But you know what? How about we put some red flag laws on people who say they're going to hurt a lot of people? I mean, I don't care if he's a kid. When I was a kid, I knew not to say crap like that, and I think a lot of you do as well. I mean, no one says that stuff, and even if they do, it's like, You can't take something like that as a joke. We have to take this problem so, very seriously. I don't want to joke about it. I don't think anyone should joke about it. And I think if you do joke about it, or quote unquote, probably that's what that guy said. Oh, I was just joking, or I wasn't serious. I don't care. I don't think you should be able to, have a rifle as soon as you turn 18, when the guy said, as soon as I turn 18, I'm going to buy a rifle and hurt people. But that's just my thoughts about it. Tell me what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.